Notre Dame, and Mike Silver at 1:30, who spent time every second of it seems like, with the Jaguars when they were drafting this past weekend. And so I can't wait to learn more from him, but also in taking in the article this morning, Taylor, my goodness, did he deliver as far as behind the scenes information that none of us had access to.
Yeah, it's really cool to get that perspective of it, because you'll hear little things in recent years. Obviously now you'll get videos of them when they'll cut to it, and you'll see them making the phone calls to the players, or you'll see them kind of the reaction when they select certain players. And sometimes even with extra access of some, like the Hard Knocks last year, you'll get a little bit more into even the ins and outs of it. But you really don't know from start to finish what these guys are going through and what they're having to kind of on a whim. And as I was reading it, and they were talking about, time running out on one of those picks and how stressful I'm sure that felt in that moment. And it's one of those things, like for us, that in-between time feels like an eternity. And for them, it probably feels like a minute, because there are so many things going on. And this is very important decisions you're making. And especially for James Gladstone, this is his first general manager job, obviously, and Liam Cohen's first head coaching job, and Tony Baselli's first EVP job. So there's a lot of firsts going on in this room. And Tony Baselli obviously adds that extra element of caring for the organization, even more so because he's such a huge part of it. It's big and it's emotional, and there's a lot of things going on. And at the same time, guys like Tony Baselli has also been through that. He's been through the draft day process and everything that goes into it on the opposite side. So I'm sure that is in peace. He's thinking about it on the other end too. So yeah, it's really, really cool to kind of get that behind the scenes feel and look of how much actually goes into these decisions, and what it feels like when the player you want gets taken a couple picks before what you actually want to take them at.
I didn't even think about that, by the way. Baselli, like thinking about it from the draft pick side of things.
I'm mostly just excited to finally get to hear about some of the targets that the Jaguars potentially had on the board that maybe didn't come to fruition. I think that is what I'm most excited to ask Mike Silver about at 1:30 when he joins us, because I think a lot of names that Jaguar fans speculated could potentially be a fit here in Jacksonville, one of whom may or may not have joined this very show.
Yes.
That was confirmed.
Yeah.
So glad
Denver stole too.
Yeah, but I'm so glad that Pat Bryant was on that list of players that the Jaguars were certainly interested in. It does feel like to me, after we've been processing this now for a few days, that if the Jaguars weren't able to trade up for Travis Hunter, and obviously that would have meant that Cam Ward didn't go number 1 overall to the Titans, I think they would have had Ashton Genty. That's what I think would have happened. I think they would have stayed
And then
at
you
5.
could have taken your victory lap.
And it has nothing to do with me. It's more about...
Sorry, I had to. It was there for the taking.
I mean,
Well, they did. They said those are the two players in that category.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can confirm
Yes,
that.
I got Brian Thomas Jr. right last year with no intel, but just because that's the player I wanted the Jaguars to take. And this year, had it been Ashton Genty, I would have been excited for this franchise to move in that direction. But I still am super excited about Bashal Tutin and obviously what Travis Hunter can do. What I found fascinating is that if the Browns, if Cam Ward hadn't gone to the Titans, the Browns would have taken Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decided to go a completely different direction and draft 2 quarterbacks. Yeah. So that was just an odd move to me.
Well, but that's largely because both Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders are dart throws.
Yeah.
They were drafted at a point in the draft order in which that's developmental level. Mm-hmm. That's, hey, we're taking a flyer on this kid. They are not investing first-round capital in either of those players. That's why they acquired a second first-round pick from the Jacksonville Jaguars for next year, because they're going to try. They're going to see what works out, who shakes out as the starter amongst the 12 quarterbacks they have in the room right now. I know it's 5, but I'm going to say 12 for now. Then from there, if someone emerges from that pack, certainly they will hand them the keys and give them the right of way to lead that franchise. Yeah. But if it doesn't work out, then whatever. You
spent draft another guy next year.
Yeah, you spent a third and a fifth round pick. And
if I had known that the Browns were even thinking about Cam Ward, I just would have expected them to then take a quarterback higher than waiting until
No, but the
I think Cam Ward was the only one they felt worth any value, and that's what it came down to. Sorry.
No, it's true.
Everybody.
That's the draft process.
Or because even like a Jackson Dart, if they were picking like 17, 18, I could have seen them maybe taking the chance on Dart in that range. But you weren't going to take Dart with the number 2 pick in the NFL draft. That just wasn't going to happen. You're not probably wanting to trade from 2 to 17 unless you're absolutely sure that someone like a Dart was the guy that you wanted. So to me, it showed that, we know the kind of value list or some of the names on that list for the Jaguars. Their 2 highest were Travis Hunter and Ashton Genty. Aside from that, everybody's in a tier below. And so for the Browns, it must have been, a Ward, a Hunter, a Genty, a Graham, and then a huge gap, because those are kind of some of the names that you're hearing from them. But I said multiple times last week when we were talking about this, of when we were kind of, people were saying, oh, the Browns fans must be angry. I don't think they are, and I'm sure it sucks because you lose like a player like Travis Hunter that's generational, but you don't have anybody to throw him the ball. And we've seen how that doesn't work out in the New York Giants. It doesn't matter how good the weapons are. It doesn't matter how good things if you don't have the quarterback to do it, it eliminates a lot of things. So
then why draft 2?
Because you got to find one. Like I don't mind trying. I think that it's very difficult to find a quarterback in this league that pans out. Obviously, we know here that even drafting 1 overall doesn't mean that things all of a sudden start to sparkle and look pretty. It takes other things to go into that. But the quarterback is the start. And so they've made so many mistakes. We talk about the Deshaun Watson one, but there's many before that. They're having to watch Baker Mayfield do what he does in Tampa Bay right now. And so why not take shots? I mean, we talk about the base of the run game and the offensive line being kind of like that anchor of everything. And so if you can just protect your quarterback and be able to run the ball, maybe you can help develop enough one of these guys to get you some wins. And if it doesn't work, then you have a shot next year to do it again.
I guess I'm critical of the Browns for the decision to take Shedeur Sanders right after taking Dylan Gabriel, in the sense that obviously Shedeur Sanders, the tape that he has is not NFL caliber tape. Like, I think Dylan Gabriel is a little bit of a project, and I would be excited to have the draft expectations that I have for Dylan Gabriel. I do think that he's a pretty good quarterback and he's got a really good arm. Shedeur Sanders can't throw the ball downfield.
That's how I feel about Gabriel, though. So
I was going to say,
Gabriel
I don't agree with that.
Accuracy and arm. And I to me, Gabriel is a college quarterback. Yes. That's what it is.
Correct.
And I cannot see that transferring to the NFL. Maybe I'm wrong, because Gabriel, there were moments last year where I was like, oh, Dylan Gabriel can be really fun. But there were so many moments where I was like, that was awful. I could have thrown a ball better than that. Shedeur, it's hard to tell, because I think that there were a lot of incredible moments. And you talk about, he had one of the worst offensive lines in college football. And so if you're talking about a guy having to do everything and put his team on his back, that was Shedeur Sanders last year. And you have Travis Hunter. Yeah, you have one wide receiver that everybody knew you were going to get the ball to Travis Hunter. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't protect Shedeur. So it's hard for me to fully evaluate that. I've never been high on Shedeur Sanders. I think he's okay, but I could see some appeal in some of the ways he could extend plays and do some of the extra things that I don't see out of Dylan
Also,
Gabriel.
Sacked 94 times to your point.
Yeah, but look, that's my bigger concern with Shedeur, is that he's running into sacks.
Yeah.
Like, that's the bigger concern compared to his arm. I think his arm is stronger than Dylan Gabriel's, for that matter. And Dylan Gabriel is always going to be knocked because of his size, which Shedeur Sanders has average size, but he's still bigger than Dylan Gabriel. And so if you're going to pick a developmental quarterback, you can make the argument that the two should have been flip-flopped. And I think then the discourse would be much less prevalent if Shedeur Sanders had been that 3rd-round flyer. Dylan Gabriel's your 5th-round flyer. And certainly, and I see you guys on the text line knocking the idea of the Browns taking 2 quarterbacks. But at this point in time, what do they have to lose? Yeah. I agree. They should have been using that capital to maybe beef up other areas of their roster. But they are trying whatever sticks against the wall and throwing whatever they can at it.
Shedeur Sanders completed 47% of his passes beyond 20 yards and 68% of his passes between 10 and 19 yards. The stats for me just show that I don't think his arm is big enough for the NFL. And you add all the other stuff, which is he doesn't have a traditional agent. He uses his dad. He didn't want to do anything at the combine. He didn't want to play in the East-West Shrine Bowl. Like, there's so much other stuff in there. But this conversation about what the Browns did is really because it led to the Jaguars getting Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
And now we've said this. If you're Trevor Lawrence, you have 2 elite options now to get the ball to. There are no more excuses. Yeah. They've upped upgraded the offensive line, we hope, and now you have the extra running backs as well. Like, this is the season to prove it to everyone.
Yeah, and I think that is the bottom line for us is it worked out. It worked out here for Jacksonville. And not to say, and we had this conversation on Friday, we're not going to know for another 4 or 5 years when we talk about the end of this trade. And it could be a win-win. We don't know that just because of what the Browns were able to get. It depends what they do with that number 1 last year. If one of these quarterbacks work out, they're going to be happy. So it's one of the things right now where this trade, and it like in the sense that we talk about the Rams trade with Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff, at that time, everyone was like, this is kind of crazy. Like, what is going on? It worked out for both teams. And I think both teams are probably happy with that trade that has been made. And there's not very many of those where both teams feel like, okay, that was a win-win. It could be, or it could be the case where in 5 years you're like, well, the Jags got Travis Hunter and the Browns got nobody out of that trade. And so that conversation is something that will be had later. But as of right now, you got the player that was highest, as in the Jaguars, got the player that was highest on their draft board, probably highest on every draft board outside of the Tennessee Titans because they needed a quarterback and they wanted Cam Ward. And maybe even Travis Hunter was ahead of that, but they had to go for that positional value before. And the Browns got a ton of picks and they got a couple quarterback options. They got 2 really good running backs. And so they're probably like, okay, there's things to work with. You just got to hope one of the quarterbacks hit at this point.
That's for sure. One nugget from the Mike Silver piece. 8 of the 9 Jaguars that James Gladstone drafted were on his laminated card that had 31 players that he favored. 8 of the 9 draft picks. Of course, that leads you to the question of which one was not in that initial list of 31.
Maybe Mike Silver will tell us at 1:30. Yeah. I don't know which one, but certainly he made it known. Not only did he go in with 31 players that he had earmarked, but he also showed up to his interview in late February with Shad Khan and had specific players who he would target on day 3. And he did reveal to us in the availability on Saturday that Bashal Tutin was number 1 on that list, followed by Jack Kaiser and Jonah Monheim. So my assumption is that they are included in the 8 players, Lauren.
Yeah, I would imagine that too. The best part to me of Mike Silver's entire piece was when, well, 2 things. One, when he reveals that James Gladstone could correctly pick the Rams pick at 46, because of course he knows that organization so well, like the back of his hand, but also that Tony Baselli was in the snack room multiple times when people
Listen,
were
man,
drafted.
I said it to Kevin this morning when I went for my run. I was just like I weighed in. I wasn't where I really want to be. And I was like, well, this is what happens when you're sitting covering an NFL draft in an NFL facility and like the snacks are there. And so you feel obligated because you're like, I've got 3 hours to kill. I might as well just make another cup of coffee and eat more snacks.
I was laughing at that too. And yeah, it is when you go back, obviously he spent a lot of his time with the Rams, so he knows that. I think also several people probably could have guessed that after we heard that they tried to aggressively move up for Brock Bowers last year, and it didn't work. Obviously, tight end is high up on their list of players that wanted, and Ferguson was a guy that a lot of people talked about of the tight ends in this draft group outside of Loveland and Moore, and those were the 2 names talked about the most outside of those 2. He was the next one, but that just shows, I mean, it was only a couple months ago he was planning a Rams draft. So
correct, exactly, and it was also revealed that Baselli really liked Emory Jones from LSU, and I have to say that name like slowly in my head because
not the quarterback.
Yeah, Florida had a quarterback named Emory Jones, and so it'll be interesting to see now with the Ravens, Emory Jones is how he does, right? And we'll compare. I feel like Wyatt Milam and how he does to what Emory Jones is able to do in Baltimore.
Do you think that what is Tony Baselli's mindset on that? Like, obviously, he wants Milam to be good, but would he be like, I told you we should?
No. I think, look, he was on. And
I was right. Listen to me, James.
We'll ask Mike when he comes on at 1:30.
Is that called a victory lap? Is that what that is?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. At 1:30, Mike Silver will join us and we'll ask him then. But I think that Wyatt Milam was also on the consensus board for everyone in that war room. So I think he's okay with it. I thought it was interesting, and this is common practice across the National Football League, that you would bring the position coach in, and the fact that Sean Surratt, the offensive line coach, said, no, I prefer Milam. I think that was more telling, and that perhaps can give us more clues, and certainly, is a talking point that we can now run with, this idea of what type of run game, what type of offensive line when it comes to pass blocking and sets, what will we see from this new coaching staff with the Jacksonville Jaguars?
And what does the starting offensive line look like? Like, I know we had that clip of Pete Prisco saying he thinks it's going to be Fred Johnson that's starting at the tackle position.
I think he forgot forgot who Walker Little is. It's fine. He just forgot about him and just was like, yeah, he's competition.
But I think
that happens, I think.
But I do think it's a true competition at virtually every spot.
I think they want a competition at every spot. I don't know if we have that many linemen to actually fully do a true competition at every spot that I believe could play at a high level. But one of the things that did from this article, the Mike Silver article, that popped out to me was a quote from James Gladstone, and he said, if there's an opportunity to be bold, we won't flinch. And I loved that because I think that this last month when we were having these conversations of are they going to trade back and get all these picks, and I kept saying no, like I don't want to do that. I don't care about having 13 picks. I want a really, really good football player. And to me, that is obviously the vibe that James Gladstone has, is go after what you really want, and it's worth it. And he was talking about in this article, we'll get more to it throughout the show, of the not having those first-round picks at the Rams for all those years. And sometimes the first-round picks sound really good, and they don't turn out to be that way. And so things like that, I think that he's just such a good talent evaluator. And the Rams had a really good draft, too. So obviously it wasn't just like James Gladstone making all of these good draft picks for the Rams. But you go back at what they did this year, and you're like, okay, he's learning from some of the best when it comes to the approach of how to handle the draft. And we've talked, the draft isn't a science, but if you can get to as close as right as you can and picking the best players, then I think you win. And that's the one way you can do it.
Yeah, Mia, we also learned why Jake Temmey was on the phone in that classic video, that iconic video that the Jaguars tweeted out with Baselli and Gladstone walking along the field at the Miller Electric Center, because his wife just had a baby, which I had been afraid going into the draft that James Gladstone's wife was going to have her baby and the GM wouldn't be around.
No, she was at Lemon Bar hanging out on Thursday instead. So 8.5 months pregnant. God bless her.
Yeah, well, that means good. She now will have that baby in the off season, and all will go well with that. One other thing that I feel like I wanted to get to real quick, we each gave our position groups for what we thought the Jaguars would take in the first 4 rounds. So at the time they had 6 picks. Obviously they ended up with 5 picks in the first 4 rounds because of that trade back. All 3 of us said defensive tackle, edge. Those obviously not in the first 4 rounds.
And that's an interesting conversation with regards to the reporting from The Athletic. Continue.
Yep. And then Mia, you had wide receiver, running back, offensive line, defensive back. You nailed it.
Yep.
Taylor, you had wide receiver, offensive line. So far, good there. Safety, good there. Tight end. Obviously, did not draft a tight end. And then I had wide receiver, running back, linebacker, cornerback. So I did not have offensive line in mind. But defensive tackle, edge.
Yeah. We're like, whoops. They did sign an edge, so I'm going to count that.
And they drafted an edge.
They got out of the weekend with an edge.
That is very true, no matter how it goes. All right, yeah. So we will keep the Jaguars conversation going. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
What's the deal with the show? The 1010XL Podcast Network is now available just about everywhere you find podcasts.
I mean, I think the show's going to be a huge hit.
Search for your favorite 1010XL podcast in your platform of choice.
When you think of America, you think baseball, cookouts, military, and pride for our country. At Garber Auto Mall, we're proud to carry every American-made truck at one location. Ford, Chevy, GMC, Ram, and Jeep. With the largest inventory selection in North Florida, you can shop with one salesperson. Garber Auto Mall is proud to support our country, our military, and our community. Visit us in Green Cove Springs or at GarberAutomall.com. Garber Auto Mall. Proud to be American.
It's May, and that means it's Founders Month here at Sonny's Barbecue. Every Wednesday, we're celebrating with $7 pork big deal served with a sidekick and a drink, or one of our pork and rib combos for just $11. It's our way of saying thanks for letting us be your local pitmasters. So stop in for great deals on the QU crave. Founders Month specials at Sonny's Barbecue. Local pitmasters since '68.
When it comes to your utility bill, JEA wants to help you use less so you can save more. We offer a variety of free programs, like efficiency and irrigation assessments that'll teach you ways to conserve energy and water around your home. Our alerts will let you know when your utility usage has reached a set amount, and our rebates can help you save when upgrading to more efficient appliances and equipment. Find even more ways to save at JEA.com.
Are you 18 years or older, just got married, just got divorced, or have children? Listen up. Have you done your last will and estate planning? If you have questions, call Matt Hinson with the Hinson Law Firm. Reach him at 527-1700, offices Jacksonville, Florida. And don't let the state decide your fate.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville, and Triumph has been a legend on-road. They've branched out to their off-road division as well. Give us the latest on what you can find on the asphalt.
They've got some great new products. They've got the Scrambler 400s you can get into for a little less than you might think. It's a great price point bike, but still a Triumph.
So affordability is also part of the equation.
It is, and it looks good, and it rides good.
CyclesofJacksonville.com, or check them out on their Facebook page. The showroom ready and waiting for you on Atlantic near Regency at Cycles of Jacksonville.
Discuss the beautiful game. The Coaches Show presented by Sporting Jacks. Cole Pepper, Sporting Jacks head of soccer Mark Warburton, and Sporting Jacks women's coach Stacey Baylor. Get an hour of soccer talk Tuesday evenings at 6 on 1010 a.m.
These days, it feels like everyone is talking about how the American dream of homeownership has become out of reach for so many of us. Well, Rocket is trying to give us more of a chance to own our homes. They're making homeownership simpler and more accessible to more people, turning renters into owners. Rocket believes that every one of us deserves a shot at the American dream. So, are you ready? Own the dream. Visit Rocket.com. That's Rocket.com.
Jacksonville, you know a good defense wins games, and a good fence protects your home. Frank Frangie here. Coil Fencing has been around the block since 1927. Literally, they probably fenced it too. From tough chain link to sleek aluminum fences your HOA will love, Coil is the name to trust. Nearly a century strong and still standing tall. Call Coil today. You can trust them. Call 904-356-4821 or visit coiljacks.com. That's C-O-Y-L-E Jacks.com.
I'm Clayton Bromberg, the president of Underwoods. One of the biggest changes we've seen in fine jewelry over the last 25 years has been the growth of jewelry designers. At Underwoods, we're the leader, bringing to North Florida the best names in designer jewelry. In fact, we carry designer lines in a similar way to how clothing stores carry designer labels. The difference is that jewelry designers have to be a little more timeless in their presentations because nobody wants to buy a fine piece of jewelry only to find out the next year it's gone out of style. That's why you'll find at Underwoods the best of the jewelry designer names, those that are tried and true and popular. Names like David Yerman, Roberto Coin, John Hardy, Marco Bichigo, Jude Francis, Lagos, Hippolyta, and a lot more are all available right now at Underwoods. So if you want the best looks in designer jewelry, stop by Underwoods. San Marco, Avondale, or the shops of Ponte Vedra.
If you're heading to the Og or you're already part of the nation's oldest, don't forget to drop into Sunset Grill. For over 30 years, serving up great chowder, seafood, wings, and cold beer. Sunset Grill, somewhere on A1A, St. Augustine Beach.
Your home is more than walls and a roof. It's where you breathe, drink, and power through life. At Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, we're here to keep it all running smoothly. From clean, cool air to clean water, reliable power to expert plumbing, we do it all. For over 35 years, families have trusted Donovan to make their homes healthier, safer, and more comfortable. Call Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing today, 904-270-COOL, where health meets home.
This is Mark Nato. My son Justin injured his hand playing baseball for JU. Southeast Orthopedic Specialist performed surgery just a few days later, and within 5 weeks, he was cleared to play in the ASUN baseball tournament. Our family has trusted Southeast Orthopedic Specialists for years. For any orthopedic injury, let Southeast Orthopedic Specialists take care of you too.
Relieve pain and get back to life. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
All right, Mia, you teased a little bit about the Jaguars roster construction when it comes to Mike Silver.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to pay off that tease.
With regards to the offensive line?
Mm-hmm. Or the defensive line. You just said...
Oh, yes. I was like, wait a second.
The edge defensive tackle.
Yes. Liam Cohen, in the outstanding piece by Mike Silver, who will join us in the 1 o'clock hour, Liam Cohen basically made a point of, don't we have enough defensive linemen already? I'm pulling up the exact quote because I don't want Liam to be taken out of context. But essentially, the idea of the Jaguars addressing defensive tackles specifically that so many of us believed would be item agenda number one was not indeed item agenda number one.
Yeah, I think that everyone who had mocked Mason Graham to the Jaguars, they thought that defensive tackle was something that this staff believed that they need to improve. And I think, like we talked a little bit about yesterday with Eric Armstead, our opinions of Eric Armstead maybe need to be a little different than what they are because of the coaching staff from last year. Same with Mason Smith. Like what this group just told us is they like the defensive lineman. Whether or not y'all like the defensive lineman doesn't matter. It's they obviously like them because otherwise they would have drafted a defensive tackle.
So besides Pat Bryant of Duval and Illinois Acclaim, the other players that the Jaguars were tentatively thinking about taking with the 70th and 88th overall pick that they were originally slated to select with, R.J. Harvey, Ashton Gelati of Louisville, the edge rusher. And so here is the quote from the Athletic piece. Gladstone and Baselli seem to be gravitating towards Gelati, partly because he was much, much higher on their board than the next rated player at that position, which is also interesting in and of itself. Yeah. We'll get to that in a second. Quote, we have 3 first-round defensive linemen, Cohen said, adding, half-jokingly, how many do we need? Cohen was smitten with Harvey's talent as a runner, which were undeniable. His pass blocking prowess, that was a different story. It's not his superpower, Baselli said. His superpower is making people miss. Cohen and Gladstone also loved another back, Virginia Tech's Bashal Tutin, but felt they could get him in a later round based on draft projections.
Yeah, I also loved, you referenced it earlier, when Shad Khan and James Gladstone first got together, and Shad was asking him about the current roster. And literally Gladstone was so good at it that Shad goes, where are you getting this from? Are you reading this from somewhere? Like, how do you know all this? And so it's just another peek into those behind the scenes types of moments that, like I said, we don't normally get that, which is so exciting.
Yeah. And I think to me, I don't know. It is interesting. And I think that when you go into a draft and there's always the draft articles that will say like biggest needs of a team. And those biggest needs doesn't always mean technically what the team goes, because you're not going to you need a defensive tackle. You're not just going to draft one at that spot because you need it. There's a lot of things that go into that. To me, them having that edge rusher and Gelati in that group that they were talking about with one of those 80 picks, and then also signing an edge rusher right immediately after, shows that they do think that that line needs some sort of help. I do think that we've talked to a lot of people, and I've talked to several the last few months when we were trying to address the Jags' needs and what they think this line actually looks like, because that's why we talked about the Abdul Carter thing of not loving that pick, because you already have 2 good edge rushers, but having a third doesn't hurt you. And so trying to address having somebody who can get sacks, because we've had that conversation, the next highest sack getter is 3.5 sacks. That's just not going to cut it. So you do need somebody else. And Devon Hamilton, I like Devon, but he's not that guy. He's more of the run game, the run stuffer type of guy, and that's where he is beneficial. And so when I've talked to other people around the league, that's why they were evaluating that interior defensive line so high, because they feel like Mason Smith could be that. There's still development that needs to come out of Mason Smith. So you have a young guy who's still kind of learning the league, and then now he also is in a different defensive scheme, so things are going to change. A lot of people think Eric Armstead may just be on the other end of things, so he can add in stuff, but he's not going to be out there as much as you want. Jordan Jefferson, you just don't really know yet. You just didn't see enough to see anything out of him. And then a lot of people think Devon Hamilton is just kind of like one-minded, of not really that pass rush guy that's going to get you that interior stuff. So I do think that the way they added the edge right after and having one highly rated still shows to me that then maybe they don't think this defensive line is as high as they wanted, but there were so many holes, and you're not going to fill every hole in one draft.
For the sake of the exercise, let's go through the edges that were selected after Ashton Gelati to suggest the separation between he and Jalen McLeod, who also on the record, James Gladstone apparently had him earmarked as a guy that they would target on day 3 at the position. And so the next edge that went after Ashton Gelati was selected by the Kansas City Chiefs at the 66th overall slot was Landon Jackson of Arkansas, selected 72nd overall by the Buffalo Bills. A pair of edges.
He'll be good, by the way.
Yes. A pair of edges went back-to-back at 77 and 78 in Princely Emmanuelen and Jordan Birch to the Panthers and the Cardinals, respectively. Again, this is for the sake of the exercise and to suggest the Jaguars had these players lower on their board. The next edge who went was Josiah Stewart out of Michigan, who certainly has familiarity with this coaching staff here in Jacksonville because of the Michigan ties that exist. Additionally, he was a player who James Gladstone had on his short list that they would be targeting, and ultimately went to the Los Angeles Rams. So philosophically, that checks out. Yeah. I think one of the other biggest takeaways we can have from this Gelati and Josiah Stewart exercise, the fact that the Los Angeles Rams were in on him, the fact that the Detroit Lions, the Kansas City Chiefs, Your Jacksonville Jaguars, if only in talent evaluation, are now swimming in the same pool as the best teams in the National Football League. If only in terms of talent evaluation and willingness to move up and down the draft board. And for me, that is extremely encouraging.
Are you saying you don't think Travis Hunter would be a Jaguar if Trent Baalke was still the general manager?
No, Shamar Stewart would already have a house in Queens Harbor. No, and he would have taken Shamar Stewart.
Traded back to 15 and taken Shamar.
Right, I'm just
he
being
has all
honest
the measurables for Trent.
That would have been exactly what he did.
Yeah, the boldness.
And I would have been so angry right now.
Oh, yeah. The boldness with which James Gladstone and company operated, we are the bold city of the South. Yeah. So it's about
I'm shocked
dang
they haven't
time.
leaned into that, by the way.
Yeah, feel free to run with it. It's finally time, as far as the talent evaluation, to be where you're supposed to be. And that is a team that's on par with other teams when it comes to the procurement of players. I want to know if James Gladstone was the general manager the year Trayvon Walker and Aiden Hutchinson were selected 1 and 2 overall, respectively. I wonder what he would have done at that point in time. Would James have taken Trayvon over Aiden? Would he have taken Aiden over Trayvon in 2022?
And look, I think that with all due respect to our...
Who's more intangibly
rich?
Yeah.
Well, also in the spirit of our bashing Trent Baalke conversation, I don't want to completely bury him because ultimately there are, and I've listened to a bunch of national podcasts the last few days just to kind of get the sense nationally of what folks are thinking about James Gladstone, the direction of the Jacksonville Jaguars, the moves that they made in the NFL draft. And what's been most encouraging between Todd McShay, our friend Mike Giardi with the All 32 podcast, and so many others, they've been quick to note, the Athletic Football Show too, I'll give them a shout out too, because Robert Mays is also a friend of the program. They've all noted, because the Jaguars had an awful finish to the 2023 season at 9-8, yes, but obviously a 1-5 finish, because they went 4-13 in 2024. People nationally forget that Trayvon Walker has now put together back-to-back double-digit sack seasons. And the fact that nationally people are noting that, at the very least, is encouraging to me of, okay, well, that projection, while, yes, maybe it's not at the level, or at least didn't start at the incline that Aiden Hutchinson's ascent did, certainly it is now paying dividends in one way or another.
People don't watch Jaguars football. Yeah. That's the bottom line. And so that's why for some people, they don't even care what the national people think, because outside of a guy like Pete Prisco, who really is paying attention, and then there's others like Brian Baldinger. I'll always give him credit too. There are some that pay attention, but for the most part, they're not watching. And so therefore, if you're not watching snap in and snap out, you have no idea what Trayvon Walker's doing.
Okay, so real quick, 412 wants us to do it, so I will. Thank you, Derek from Indiana.
Travis, we tried to trade for him, but nobody wanted to trade with us.
I need water. Oh, my God.
I felt like he always needed water. I think that, and I was tweeting about that a couple weeks ago because I really, truly feel it was when they had the 5th-year option for Trayvon Walker came out, and the comments were just bashing Trayvon Walker. And you could tell it was everybody outside of Jacksonville, obviously. And I tweeted and I said, I truly feel like the Jags drafted Trayvon #1 over Aiden Hutchinson, and then nobody watched a snap of what Trayvon's done the last couple years. So all they keep thinking about is you could have had Aiden. Okay, I get that. And yes, Aiden Hutchinson's incredible. You have to start talking about some injuries probably because now those have been around and you miss almost an entire season. But he also still led the Lions defense with pressures, and he only played 5 games last year. So if we want to talk about that conversation here in Jacksonville where, you only have Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker getting those pressures and getting to the quarterback, it's pretty much been Aiden doing that there, and they have other guys that are good football players, but they're more of like the run defense type of players, and every now and then can get to the quarterback. So they don't have even another guy to help Aiden in that situation right now that even Trayvon has Josh Hines-Allen. So if you're going to compare that, you have to compare the other two. But I think there's a world where you can say you still drafted the right person, and I get it's always going to be that comparison between the two players. Unfortunately, that's what it's going to be. I don't hate the Trayvon pick. I think Trayvon is very Duval, and I love that he's here, and I think we're going to continue to see that grow. The big conversation we've had is just having another person and getting that interior pass rush and how much that could help both of the outside guys.
If Trayvon Walker was a Raven or a Steeler, I feel like he'd be talked about glowingly because of those double-digit back-to-back seasons.
Yes, and certainly Mike Tomlin was the one who tried to put the nation and the league on notice, and he was, I mean, I don't want to say he was slighting JHA, but like, he said, he's like, that's the game wrecker. 44 is the one that we're worried about.
Yeah.
And that was amidst a season in which Josh Hines-Allen had 17 and a half sacks.
But yeah, Trayvon Walker is a beast. And I'm very excited to see him now paired with Anthony Campanelli as far as the defensive scheme. All right, we've got more to do on the other side, our highlights, and a whole lot more. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
If you want to get away, check in mornings with a drill and stay all day.
We just checked in, and this is already the best vacation we've ever had.
1010XL, like a daily vacation for your mind.
Hey folks, Rick Ballou here for John's Auto. They've been a staple in Jacksonville going all the way back to 1985. At John's Auto, they service all makes, all models, cars, trucks, diesel, you name it, they do it. Whether it's routine maintenance or a complete engine overhaul. Call John's Auto on Arlington Road. That's 904-743-3857 or go to johnsautomotivejacks.com.
The joys of home ownership. Until the plumbing backs up, the AC goes out, or your septic system decides to act up. The good news? You don't have to call 3 different companies when things go wrong. Just call my friends at Duck Duck Rooter. They're your one-stop shop for plumbing, septic, and air conditioning all under one roof. So whether it's a leak, a clog, or your system just won't cool, they've got you covered. Don't take my word for it. Check out their 5-star reviews on Google. From the moment you call to the moment the tech solves your issue, you'll get first-class service every step of the way. Give them a ring at 904-862-6769 or visit duckduckrooter.com. Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic, and Air Conditioning. One call does it all.
At Performance Painting, we've spent decades protecting commercial properties with durable, long-lasting coatings. And we can bring the same expertise when painting the exterior of your home. With industry-leading materials and a proven process, we extend the life of your home, reducing maintenance costs and preserving its value. Now, for a limited time, save $500 when you hire us to paint your home's exterior. Just mention 1010XL. Go to performancepainting.com to schedule a friendly estimate. Performance Painting. Repair, protect, preserve.
Performance Painting.
There's a lot on the line in a divorce. Your home, savings, maybe even your kids. So when you find yourself facing divorce and the unexpected directions it can take, you need a partner you can count on. I'm Rick Julius, a partner at Cordell & Cordell. Don't let divorce take more than it has to.
Offices in Jacksonville. Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's attorneys. Lisa Cargis, Florida resident partner. Rick Julius, licensed in Pennsylvania only. Online at cordellcordell.com.
When you hear Florida Gators baseball on 1010XL, it's brought to you by Renewal by Anderson, the official window and door replacement partner of the Florida Gators, and Farrah & Farrah, the official personal injury law firm of the Jaguars.
Are your monthly bills keeping you up at night, wondering how you got so behind? Hey, I'm Roger Moore, CEO of Loan Pronto. I get it. Life is expensive now. Insurance, groceries, cars. And then there's the credit card debt with those obscene interest rates. It's time to regain your financial freedom. And that's what we offer at Loan Pronto, using the power of the equity in your home. We have multiple ways to get you the cash you need, and most clients close in 2 weeks or less, and many don't even require an appraisal. And listen, rates have been plummeting recently. We just locked a homeowner in with an APR in the low 5s, saving her over $1,000 per month, and put $10,000 in her pocket. Life-changing money. The rate you got last year, need home improvements, or simply need cash in your pocket, we can help you accomplish this goal in record time. Call us today and get started with no hard credit pull, just a conversation. LoanPronto.com, 904-999-1508. LoanPronto.com. That's LoanPronto.com.
Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
This Day in Sports History is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On April 29, 1981, MLB Philadelphia Phillies Hall of Fame pitcher Steve Carlton is the first lefty to strike out 3,000 batters.
So, you finally have some time to yourself. Even if it is just the car ride home, it's you time. And look at you. Do not disturb set before you even got in the car? Impressive. You've earned this moment to just chill and drive. This break is brought to you by Target Zero and the Florida Department of Transportation.
Hey,
Hey, this is Coach Jason Gibson of your Jacksonville Sharks. I know the importance of a strong game plan, and that's exactly what I've got with Clay Solar Installation Partners. They did the install of the solar panels at my house, and I couldn't be happier. Lower energy bills, clean power, and a winning team that made the whole process easy. If you're looking to save money and go solar, trust the pros at Clay Solar. Call Karen at Clay Solar today and tell them that Coach Gibson sent you.
The Sawgrass Marriott Golf Resort and Spa is the perfect place for indulging in a pampering spa treatment. This Mother's Day season, give the gift of wellness with a gift card and take advantage of the spa's current promotion. Buy a $75 gift card or more and guests get a credit towards a future service. With healing massages, revitalizing facial treatments, and more, a day at the Sawgrass Spa makes a perfect gift for everyone. Purchase in person at Sawgrass Spa during operating hours.
Guys, your lawn's the home field. Now you can champion your St. Augustine grass. TopDressing.com just hit Jacksonville with a game-changing patented process. Aerate and transform your turf into a fairway-worthy masterpiece. Less water, shorter cuts, and the envy of every neighbor. No one else delivers a perfect 10 lawn like this. Visit TopDressing.com and dominate your block with the same process that golf courses use. Top dress your lawn like the pros with TopDressing.com.
Summer in Jacksonville is coming in hot. Lauren Brooks here. Beat the heat with Turbo Tint. Their window tint blocks up to 99% of harmful UV rays and keeps your ride cool and comfortable. Book today at orangepark.turbotint.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
We've been so busy with the draft that our Heels highlights have been a little pushed to the side. They were feeling lonely and unwanted, but don't worry, everyone. They are back. RJ's been in the lab, and here's what this week's highlights sound like.
Now, Heels highlights. Unbelievable! On 1010XL.
Cheers. Dad's strength for Aaron Judge as the Yankees are exceeding Mia's wildest expectations.
Judge hits one deep to right field. Santander back, track, wall, leap, see ya! A home run for Judge. And the Yankees take a 2-1 lead.
That's Aaron Judge doing his thing. I mean, I talked earlier that...
Seth Rollins arrived to the NFL draft and was getting booed by Packer fans.
Green Bay, Wisconsin! Is that all you got? Come on, you can be louder than that. And I love Lambeau Field because the king of the North, the best quarterback in the NFC North, Caleb Williams, is undefeated at Lambeau Field.
You heard it here first. Chandler Simpson is a stud.
Sater worked an inning Thursday against Arizona. Shot back into straightaway center. Simpson's going to go to the wall. He leaps and he makes the catch. Chandler Simpson tracked it all the way to the wall. Had a step left, made a leap and grabbed it. And that is out number one. Simpson fired up on that catch.
Yeah, real fired up. Real fired up.
We've only just begun. We'll start with baseball because we have been talking so much football these days that baseball, I feel like also like the highlights has been pushed to the side. The Yankees' Aaron Judge continues to be on a tear.
Yeah, I did not expect that the New York Yankees would even, have surpassed the 15-win mark by now after Garrett Cole was shut down for the season and all hope was lost. But here they sit, 1.5 games ahead of the Boston Red Sox for first place in the AL East. Water is wet. I apologize to all my Rays, Blue Jays, and Orioles fan friends out there who said, yeah, this is the year. It still might be, but the Yankees don't even really, Taylor, have old friend of yours, Cody Bellinger, really like popping off just yet either. And I think the emergence of Ben Rice has been massive. I know that Dan Hicken and the Mets fans are a little less concerned about Juan Soto than maybe they were 2-3 weeks ago. But this idea of without another massive marquee blue chip name in the lineup, how Aaron Judge would fare, the answer is he's doing okay. He's doing just fine.
Yeah, I saw the recent rankings, and I said this in the office yesterday. I was like, if you would have told me a month ago that the Detroit Tigers and the Giants would be ranked as the 2 best teams in baseball right now, that's probably wouldn't have been my guess personally.
Yeah, Mets the first team to 20 wins, and then the Dodgers and Giants both have 19. Obviously, they're in the same division, so that makes things very interesting there. Yeah,
I heard Dan talking about it this morning because the Mets obviously being 20-9, and he was like, "Yeah, but we played a very easy schedule, so we'll see once things start like picking up a little bit because the Cubs have the same record as they're 17-9 like the Yankees, but they've had the hardest schedule in baseball. They've played the Dodgers 9 times and they've played the Padres and it's like every team we played outside of the A's have are some of the best teams in baseball. So it's like, dang, can we just get a break?
And that's where the Yankees look. I mean, when they open up the season against the Brewers and everyone's like, man, the Yankees look really good. And then it's like, no, Nestor Cortez just doesn't have it anymore. And he's trying to do his old friends a solid out here.
That game was crazy.
Yeah, and then playing the Diamondbacks too, and I think the Diamondbacks will be okay. But yeah,
they're playing good baseball.
Yeah, they're okay. But at that point in time, I think they were kind of like mired in a little midweek slump of sorts. But no, I mean the fact that Aaron Judge, leads the majors, 405 batting average, 28 RBIs, the home run tally isn't quite top 5 in the majors right now, but. Yeah, no, not concerned.
At least you're not the Rockies. They're 4-24. So.
Yeah, and that's despite having Coors Field at their disposal. So
yeah, I played a Rays highlight because we had talked about Chandler Simpson in the highlights several weeks ago, and I told y'all this is going to be the fastest guy in baseball, but I wasn't sure when they were going to call him up. And it feels like good teams, smart teams, realize they have a stud waiting in the wings, and you bring them up pretty early. And so give credit to the Rays. There was an injury to Richie Palacios, and so they decided just a few weeks ago to bring him up, and he made that flight. He ended up in the dugout, but didn't make it in that first game, and now he's played in several. He's hitting 400 with 30 at-bats. With 5 runs, 12 hits, and 3 stolen bases. The reason I wanted to give you those stats, I didn't say home runs. He doesn't have a single home run, but he has all those hits and he gets on base. So he's playing old school baseball. His nickname is Little Tony Gwynn. And that I think is kind of fun to watch is somebody, you always have to be worried about his speed, obviously, but he also is just making really good contact. And you don't always see that for a guy he's 24, but he's a rookie.
Since the Rays will be trading him by January of next year.
No. He won't be traded. He won't be traded.
I was going to ask about the minor league ballpark. I'm going to ask about the minor league ballpark.
It's been pretty much sold out every night.
Taylor's going for the jugular.
They're good at that, though. They're good at finding, developing, bringing up, and then they make a trade, and it's like, why did you trade away this player? He was so good.
Well, they don't usually trade them until they think their prime is over. Now, one example where that went awry is Blake Snell. But I'll say this. Blake Snell has a lot of attitude. I don't know if he'd be intangibly rich according to what the Jaguars like. So I understood.
He wouldn't be in that Jaguar DNA column.
Correct. I do think that Kevin Cash and the pitching staff were kind of like, look, he's awesome. He's won a Cy Young.
Yeah.
The Rays got to the World Series with him, but I think they just were ready to move on. Yeah. But most of the time, they keep the players until they think, like I said, that they're not going to be good anymore. The weird one is that Wander Franco, who still has not, I guess, dealt with what's going on. He's been to trial, or the trial hasn't started, but they keep pushing it back. But I guess that's Dominican Republic.
Very messy too.
It is messy. But yeah, you heard the highlight of Chandler Simpson robbing Manny Machado for the home run. What's fascinating, the Rays have the Royals the next 3 nights in Tampa, and then the Yankees come to town. Now, the first time those two teams met, Rays didn't win a single game against the Yankees.
No. And of course, the game is being played at Steinbrenner Field, the spring training home of your New York Yankees.
Which they spent so much time and effort, and they did a really good job. The organization did, the Rays, to create it, to at least make it feel like customized Steinbrenner, to make it feel like it's a Rays facility. But yeah, everyone jokes about the whole the Rays have sold out again. The attendance, or the capacity, I mean, is like 10,000. So yeah, the attendance looks great as far as like 100% of sales, but you're in a minor league ballpark.
Oakland can't even do it at a minor league.
That's true.
They need to get a bathroom. Like, there are issues. They don't even have bathrooms
People
for their
are like,
players.
I gotta use the restroom if I'm drinking beer for an entire game.
They got porta potties for Seiya Suzuki,
the
right?
players have to use the porta potties and run across the field mid-game to use the restroom.
Like, it could be worse.
I did think Taylor would have a baseball highlight. I thought for sure it'd be the Cubs.
Well, before we get to Iowa's own Seth Rollins, yes, of course, there's always an Iowa tie. I do want to give the Braves their due. A round of applause, RJ. 3 straight series wins. Everyone who said the sky is falling, Jeff Prosser's driving around in his car right now. It's okay. It's a long season. And
he did say they'd be above 500 at the halfway mark.
Yeah.
He said, I think he was like 55 and 52. Or
you don't have Ronald yet. Like, I can't guarantee for you he's going to come back and look like the Ronald Acuna who was the National League MVP. But what I can tell you is if even he can just get out of the batter's box and put the ball in play, that is a step in the right direction. And again, limited interaction when he was here rehabbing against the Jumbo Shrimp with the Gwinnett Stripers. But again, a guy that elevates, to the intangibly rich notion, elevates the mood, the motivation, the vibe in a clubhouse.
Yeah, he definitely has that like swagger that you want and you miss when he's not there. And honestly, the Phillies are only 2 games up right now. And I think the Phillies would have people would have thought the Phillies would have had a little bit more gap of that, especially with the way that the Braves started. So, but the Braves, I think they just swept them. So it's also when that didn't help Philly too much either. So it's going to be, there's a lot of interesting storylines when it comes into baseball this season. And I know not everybody that listens to us loves baseball, but it is some fun storylines.
And then your highlight was Iowa's own Seth Rollins. I did not know he was from Iowa until this
Davenport,
show.
baby. Quad Cities.
But yeah, the amount of people booing him was very loud. It translated to the television.
Yeah, and I thought it was just, obviously, for Bears fans, it's fantastic because the whole weekend being in Green Bay, everybody's just getting booed. The whole NFC North, and we talked about it a little bit on Friday. I think it's hilarious. All these rivalries, especially the Bears-Packers rivalry. It's over 100 years old, so there's a lot of stuff that goes, a lot of history between these two teams, and so I wouldn't expect anything less than how it went. If it was in Chicago, I'd fully know there'd be Green Bay sucks chants the entire time. So I loved that they had Rollins, though, because number one, that's what wrestlers do, like that personality of being able to take on all of that. Yeah, they're like, bring it. This is what kind of I thrive off of, and so it was hilarious. It was just like a little moment, especially after we talked about the other with the Clay Matthews situation to start. And so being able to retaliate a little bit was very fun. And I wasn't even watching it live because I had it pulled up on my phone, and the amount of text I got that was like, Taylor, did you just see Seth Rollins? You have to go watch this. It was hilarious. And at the same time, Theo Vaughn was doing the seventh inning stretch at the Cubs game. So there was just so much chaos happening.
Content. Just the content.
Are we surprised that Roger Goodell still gets booed?
No.
At this point, it's just tradition. He loves it.
I don't even know if some of the people booing him know who he is.
It's his version of, it's like the brief moment in time where he feels like he's an AEW wrestler. And he's just leaning in, and he feels like he's the most popular girl or boy in school. And I'm here for it. It's the one day a year that he feels like
He's like, here's my moment.
Yeah, exactly.
I was walking the dog this morning, and there's another neighbor who has a dog that, like, the two dogs love each other. They always play together. And so she was like, how have you been? And I was like, busy, with work. And she knows I work in sports, but she's not the biggest sports fan. And so she was like, oh, yeah, I heard something about Saunders getting prank called. And I was like, so this is like when, obviously it's Sanders, but this is like what people that aren't in the sports world, that's what the NFL draft meant to them.
Moments there,
It was the prank calling, which we saw that the 21-year-old, the son of Jeff Ulbrich, we saw that he apologized to Shedeur. He called him. Shedeur took the call. And so, he, I think, is very embarrassed at this point about what transpired. So I was glad to at least see that, he was able to apologize to Shedeur, because there's a lot that goes on with that whole situation that we were talking about earlier, but no one should ever be put in a situation where you're tricked in a big moment like that.
Yeah, that's honestly devastating. It was already a very bad day, a bad weekend probably. And I honestly have liked how Shedeur Sanders has handled it since. He, the one video where he's like, God has a plan, like his plans don't stray. This is what's supposed to happen. And I think that's the best way he could have handled this. And I was talking to you a little bit over the weekend, Lauren, where I was like, I feel kind of bad for him. At first, I was posting jokes and it was funny. And then it got to the point where I was like, I feel a little sad because I've had friends whose parents are the like helicopter, hover, control everything parents. And if you aren't like at your very best, they're judging everything you're doing. And it's not fun to live in that world where you feel like you're never quite good enough. And so I'm sure this moment for him was devastating for him, but also he knows how Dion is, and I'm sure that was playing into his head of disappointing his dad, and his dad had all these high expectations of him, and that world of his brother and dad also kind of shattered certain things, and when you're brought up a certain way, that brings out your personality and it just unfortunately kind of turns out that way. So I don't know, like who knows what's going to end up happening in his career, we will see, but I hope this is a lesson more so for players, but also for parents. Like, let your children be them and let them decide what they want to do, and don't be too vocal in this because you could potentially ruin certain paths that they're going down. And I'm not saying it's everything. It's talent was part of this too, but yeah.
Don't be a mom agent. Don't be a dad agent. I had somebody say that to me a few weeks ago, and it's very much now at the forefront of, I think, how a lot of people are going to view the NIL and the transition from the collegiate ranks to professional. Bucky Brooks said it best yesterday on the Frangie Show, and he's very close to the Sanders family, has known Shador for years. They overplayed their hand. Mm-hmm. That's simple. The fact that he told certain teams, I don't want to talk to you. Yeah. People talk. Other teams get wind of that. And here we are.
Yeah, I would imagine, to your point, Taylor, that he's been humbled. Mm-hmm. But I also think that regardless of your parents, you get to choose your own attitude and how you embrace situations. And I think he went into the draft, from everything we've been able to hear from the Friday to now, or Thursday to now, I think he went into it with the attitude of, I'm too good. Like, I don't have to do the things that other quarterbacks are doing. I don't have to really prepare for these interviews, and I don't really need to, do the combine stuff like we talked about. Like, I'm just going to show up and be good. And I think that is off-putting for people. And even if your dad is Dion, like, you still have to work really hard. You still have to, this is the NFL. There's only 32 clubs. Yeah. So I think that, yes, his dad has an influence for sure, but he's also now a grown man. Like, you have to be prepared and work hard and things like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say I don't think he hasn't worked hard. I think that you don't get to this place you are where you're even being talked about being drafted if you don't put in some sort of work throughout your career. I just think that when you have a dad like that who is so aggressive in a lot, and I had almost completely opposite, so I had to do a lot of things on my own and kind of figure it out and grow up super quick. If you don't, it's hard. It's hard to put yourself in someone's shoes like that, where your parents are constantly like, you're not. And I'm not saying that he was saying you're not good enough, but you can clearly, Dion's one of the most competitive people in the entire world, and just being around that constantly, you start to believe that. Like, if that's what your dad's telling you is that you're great, you're great, you're great, you're going to be drafted number 1 overall, that's what you deserve. That's been planted in your head since you're a child, so it's hard not to be that person. So I do hope this experience helped that, where no, not everybody is my dad and thinks that I'm the most perfect human being in the entire world.
Yeah, outside of a few people, the NFL will humble you. Yeah. Like, there's very few that got to come right in the league and be excellent right away. All right, so we will check in with Malik Zaire. What does he think of former Notre Dame linebacker Jack Kaiser, and a whole lot more? You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Of the Jaguars fan.
To see the stadium packed tonight was awesome. One of the best game environments I've been in.
This is 1010XL.
Southeast Orthopedic Specialist is now offering ortho walk-in appointments. If you have an immediate need for orthopedic care, contact Southeast Orthopedic Specialist immediately. Avoid ERs and urgent care waiting rooms. For more information, go to se-ortho.com.
Relieve pain and get back to life. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
ET here, and if you've ever been injured in an accident, visit my buddy Dr. McGowan at McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation Center. You have 14 days to see a doctor and protect your insurance benefits, even if you're at fault. And no matter what you hear, you have the right to choose your own doctor. So I recommend McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation. Their auto experts will guide you in every step of the way to ensure the care that you need. Your recovery starts with McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation.
It's game time for your business, and Advanced Business Solutions has the winning play. With Xerox copiers, you'll never miss a deadline. Fast, reliable, and built for high performance, Xerox copiers keep your team ahead of the competition. From printing to scanning, Xerox brings the MVPs of efficiency to your office. Ready to make the winning move? Hire the champions at Advanced Business Solutions. Veteran owned.
Printers, copiers, and IT management. Advanced Business Solutions.
Cooking with Crisco.
These things are wonderful. You're going to love it. Have a rollie.
Catch CBS Sports senior NFL writer Pete Prisco every Friday afternoon on The Franchi Show. Brought to you by Showtime Sports Cards and Collectibles on 1010XL.
What does it mean when someone says the continental United States?
It's always a good idea to compare homeowners' insurance rates when it's time to renew. Before storm season, log on to southernoak.com and get an instant quote or find an agent in your area.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
The continental United States refers to all United States in North America. Hawaii is in the southern hemisphere.
Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
Beat the spring cleaning rush with big savings and priority booking by calling our heroes at Zero Res. This month, get Zero Resified from Jacksonville's #1 carpet cleaner. You'll get 25% off all cleaning services. That's right, 25% off. Check out 8,000 raving customer reviews if you don't believe me online. Call them, 904-287-5727, or visit their website, ZeroResJacksonville.com. Zero Res, spell it forwards or backwards. It's the right way to clean.
Zero Res.
The flagship station of the Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
The housing market is as busy as ever on the First Coast. And if you've moved in or moved on, make sure you have a team of trained electricians ready to help. American Electrical can make sure you're up to date electrically and maximize your living experience. Smart home automation services, home theater systems, outdoor and dock lighting, and backup generators. American Electrical can do it all. A team you can trust with highly trained technicians ensuring you have the best living experience. American-Electrical.com, a leader on the First Coast and powered by professionalism.
Lauren Brooks here for Terminix. Before termites attack your home or business and cause costly damage, Terminix it. Terminix stops termites in my home fast. These destructive pests may have been around for millions of years, but before they show up, so does Terminix. And their time is up. Don't live with a termite problem. I certainly wasn't going to. Terminix it. Visit Terminix.com today to schedule a free inspection online. That's TERMINIX.com. Terminix.com.
Hey, it's Matt Hayes here with a challenge. A challenge might not be the best choice in words, so let's say an opportunity. Take the opportunity to lose 40 by the 4th with Awaken 180. It sounds a little different when you put a real goal to it, doesn't it? Maybe you looked at the scale this morning and it read 230 pounds. How about a reading 190 by the 4th? Maybe the scale says 300. Wouldn't the number 260 be a little nicer on your eyes and on your joints? It's attainable if you have the same results we all had with Awaken 180. I dropped 40 pounds in 9 weeks. Hacker dropped his first 40 in just 6 weeks. Dempsey, Blue, and everyone else I know, same results. And we've kept it off. The best thing about Awaken 180 weight loss, it will completely change the way you think, see, and feel about food. The results are real, attainable, and the process simple with Awaken 180. Take the opportunity and drop 40 by the 4th. It all starts with just one call to Awaken 180 Weight Loss. Call 844-346-1800 or online at awaken180weightloss.com.
Hi, I'm Sean Monahan from Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach. Since 1977, we've been Jacksonville's local family jeweler, and this Mother's Day, we'd like to help you celebrate Mom with up to 40% off our entire inventory. GIA-certified natural diamonds and lab-grown diamonds, beautiful colored gemstones, designer brands, custom jewelry design. And Monahan Jewelers offers interest-free financing on any purchase, so get something special with a payment you can afford. Come celebrate Mom with fine jewelry at up to 40% off at Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
Yo, it's your main man E.T. here, and it's time to make those summer break plans. Clay County is calling. From paddleboarding on Doctors Lake to reeling in the big one on Black Creek or cruising the St. Johns River. There's no better place to dive into warm weather fun. Enjoy live music, local festivals, food trucks, and fireworks lighting up the night. Discover scenic parks, hidden trails, and must-visit local gyms. Your summer adventures start here. Visit exploreclay.com.
I'm Max Fink with your 1010XL Southeast Orthopedic Specialist local sports update brought to you by Kuhn Flowers. Game 4 of the Panthers vs. Lightning series was rather chaotic with a handful of different lead changes. Anton Lundell started the scoring, putting the Panthers up 1-0 midway through the second before the Lightning regained the lead with a pair of goals 11 seconds apart shortly after. As time expired late in the third, it looked like Tampa would be heading home with the series notched up. But just like that, Aaron Ekblad tied it up at 2 before Seth Jones scored just 11 seconds later, putting the Panthers back on top 3-2 with 3:36 remaining. Carter Verhaeghe delivered a dagger to the empty net to round out the game 4-2 as the Panthers take a 3-1 series lead. Game 5 in Tampa Bay will begin tomorrow at 7:30 as the defending Stanley Cup champions look to advance to the second round. It's 80 degrees at 101. Time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
We are efforting for Malik Zaire, former Notre Dame quarterback. While we wait for him, I'll give you today's Terminix Pest of the Day, as always brought to you by our friends at Terminix. You can find them online, Terminix.com, Terminix.com. They will come out to your house and take care of any issues you have, whether it's pests, termites, mosquitoes. They've done that for us, and they do it for Everbank Stadium, ViStar Ballpark, ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena, all your favorite event venues around town. Ladies, we didn't have time yesterday because we were breaking all things draft down to get to this Bill Belichick story, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, is today's Pest of the Day.
I missed this.
I'm glad you went with it because I actually was going to cool down with it later if we had time. So let's make it the Pest of the Day.
Yeah, I don't know if we can cool down with it. Because,
I have all the tweets and the screenshots pulled up, so we're ready for the ceremonial reading.
While she's smoking hot, I suppose I can say, she's not coming over very favorably with anyone after they appeared, Taylor, on a CBS show, CBS Mornings interview over the weekend, and they were interviewing Bill Belichick only, and the girlfriend was off to the side, but she kept interrupting. They even asked him a question like, oh, so how'd you meet Jordan? She interrupts and is like, you can't ask him that. Which, of course, then makes people think that she's got a background that she doesn't want to become public. But now North Carolina, the university, is very concerned about the relationship, which shouldn't they have been concerned to begin with previously? When he's 70-something and she's 20-something? Like, I'm not going to say that there's, a certain age gap that you can't, overcome. I'm not going to talk about that.
And he's dated younger women before.
Right.
It's never been this psychotic.
Mia, I don't think you date a 24-year-old. Right? Like, you're only in your 30s.
No.
Like, Taylor, you wouldn't have dated a 24-year-old, and you're in your 30s. Like, what are we doing, Bill?
Yeah, it is. I just don't know what you talk about. And, also, Bill's, an old 72. He is also, as in not two. But he is one of those guys, he mocks social media and face and Instaface and all of those things. He's been so out of touch in that realm and has been one of the guys where it's kind of been mocking in the way of he is old school Bill Belichick and that's what he is and it's never going to change. So it's I don't know what they talk about. I really want to know what they talk about.
Because he's supposed to be a very well-versed, well-rounded person.
So this is from Stuart Mandel, who's joined us before from The Athletic. He tweets, after tweeting 5 times in 6 years, Jordan Hudson has been retweeting supporters since the CBS interview, including one that wishes that Bill Belichick, quote, reached across and strangled the life out of the interviewer. Some other samplings. The interview was supposed to be about his new book about his dad at Navy. They were wearing Navy for that reason. Maybe she didn't want her or their personal relationship to be part of the interview instead of football. I think that's why they don't want to talk about that, and they shouldn't have to. Your article deems why. I see a woman who cares about her man and doesn't want him to be screwed around by the media. A sampling of some of the retweets that she has shared.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, to your point, Taylor, what do they talk about? Navy, we know that he's gone in depth as far as the history of football and certainly the military services. Bill Belichick could have, I think, a Mike Leach type of conversation, maybe not be as zany as Mike Leach, obviously, rest in peace. But I think Bill Belichick really is a smart human being. Obviously, he's a good football coach, too. Yeah. I don't know what she's bringing to the table other than like making him take some crazy pictures.
Well, speaking of InstaFace, let's get to this next reading. Again, I don't know if we need dramatic music behind it, RJ, but if we want to, I'm here for it. So from Nicole Auerbach, of course, now with NBC Sports, formerly with The Athletic, she just found Jordan Hudson posted this screenshot of an email from Bill Belichick from April 10th on Instagram, accompanied by Taylor Swift's "Look What You Made Me Do" as the music song selection attached to said post. Here is the alleged email that Bill Belichick allegedly sent. I don't think this is fantastic, but it probably will hype the book, which is clearly the ongoing theme here. This is about what I expected from the media. We went through how important it was for me to put the I bleeped up in the book. And of course, that is the feature of this article, which is mostly about admitting mistakes and talking about a Super Bowl mistake. I am fine with putting mistakes in the book. I am certainly not surprised that of 260 plus pages, that is what they would highlight. We can expect that the interviews and podcasts that will supposedly drive the sales will also come from similar samples. These appearances will no doubt focus on whatever negatives they can extract from the book. That was evident when Axelrod dropped the story because we would not do current events at UNC. I will say again, I want this book to be presented as a look at my professional life and how I did my job on my way up to as the leader of an organization that grew from a $500 million franchise to an $8 billion organization. He shortened M and B, by the way, for million and billion respectively, that played in 10 and won 6 Super Bowls. I have at times reluctantly gone along with this title, cover, and language of the book. I am not going to be the conductor of a hype train in the book promotion. We have enough hype to work with. I hope we can get on the same page in promoting the book authentically. Thanks, BB. Now, Albert Breer, and he says this in jest, but I part of me wants to believe that this is true. Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated, who of course is up in the Boston area, has covered the Patriots for the better part of the last 20 some odd years. Quote, do we have approval on that? Is the smoking gun that tells me Bill Belichick didn't actually write that email. There's zero chance he didn't know that the Boston Globe wouldn't give them control over the title. He also probably would know it's a headline and not a title. So Albert Breer thinks that Jordan Hudson actually wrote this fictitious email.
Oh. She stormed out of the room during the interview. Like, yeah. I just think it's a disaster of a relationship from the outside looking in, and North Carolina does not look, I would say, very good in this light at this point in time. And I wonder if they're regretting hiring Bill. And again, it's not all because of the girlfriend, but there's just been a lot of weird stuff over the last, I would say, 6 months.
Yeah, and I remember when the hiring first happened, I was like, I'm kind of concerned. I don't know how well this is going to work out. And yes, girlfriend aside, I just don't know how much Bill can relate to kids that are 19, 20, 21 years old.
Well, she can.
Yeah.
She's not that much older than that.
Yeah, but she's not coaching like you have to. And I'm sure she's giving him advice, and she's saying, here's some things you can say and how they'll understand. And this is how, we talk about that, the why. And I'm sure she's helping him with that type of stuff. Like my grandpa is 66, and it's like crazy to think about dating someone older than my grandpa. But we already talk about a disconnect and how coaches are already struggling to be able to connect to Gen Z and this group of kids in college now. And this guy was one who we already started seeing that disconnect in the NFL. And these were with guys that were in their late 20s, early 30s. So to me, and it's not going to be everybody, because there's going to be players who just so respect Bill Belichick that is a little more important than, how maybe they learn or how they see things. But it's just so hard for me to truly believe that once you recruit them and get them there, they're going to be able to understand the way that Bill Belichick communicates and his old school philosophy of a lot of things. And maybe he's tried to change some of that. There's a reason they're getting the general manager to probably help some of that in between stuff. But I had concerns from the beginning. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how he can connect to kids that age.
Well, she can. Yeah. The girlfriend from Hudson certainly can. Yeah. I think I always try to look through the Jaguars' point of view when it comes to this kind of stuff. And the fact that Liam Cohen is here and the youthfulness that's here, especially too with James Gladstone. I think this group of people can really connect with the actual guys in that locker room. I'm not saying that Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke couldn't whatsoever connect. And I think from some of the reporting we've heard that Trent Baalke might have been too involved in some of the stuff on the grass, so to speak. But I 100% believe Liam Cohen knows how to connect to these Jaguars players. By the way, an hour plus into the show, and I haven't mentioned that DJ Lagway is throwing a football. We saw that yesterday, that video, and Denny even said like he needed to put gloves on because it was spinning well. So I just needed to share that.
Yeah, I was laughing
I'm shocked we
yesterday.
didn't lead with it. I was fully expecting us to lead with it.
I was laughing yesterday when Denny Thompson was talking about it because he was telling the story. I can't remember who he said. Someone texted him and was like, I saw DJ Lagway was throwing, and Denny was like, yeah, I was the one catching the ball in the video.
Yeah, we didn't leave with it just because there's nothing, to report
Beyond that,
outside of. Yeah, he is throwing the football.
Even if we don't know, Denny doesn't know in the facility how many yards it is. I was like... Okay, well, Matt's like, is it 20? Is it 10?
Yeah.
He's like, well, less than 20. So I don't know how many yards it is, but yes, he is at the very least
like 14 yards
throwing a football.
Yeah, it looked less than 20 yards, I would say. But yeah, after driving all the way to Gainesville with my family and only getting to see 2 snaps for DJ Lagway, both being handoffs, which we were prepared for, but it's still really nice to see this guy who could potentially be a Heisman Trophy winner this season, or at least he's in that conversation as we start the season, that he's throwing the football because he is a quarterback. And so everybody now can relax when it comes to that. Yes, breathe a little is right. All right, we have the cool down on the other side because we will check in with Mike Silver, who wrote that terrific piece in The Athletic about the Jaguars War Room. When we come back, it is 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Who are you? I am the architect. I created 1010XL.
A world
I've been waiting for you.
where anything is possible.
1010XL.
Are you ready to step up to luxury?
Check out the power of our exciting 2025 lineup, including the Lyric, IQ, Optique, and the stunning Vistique.
With over 15 electric Cadillacs in stock and more on the way, it's the perfect time to trade in your Tesla and embrace luxury with a twist.
At Randy Marion, there are no tariffs. So visit Randy Marion Cadillac on Southside Boulevard, Jacksonville, and see why our electric lineup turns heads.
Don't miss out. Drive Cadillac, electric or gas. We have both. Plus tax tag title $9.99 admin fee and resist all on approved credit.
Attention Florida homeowners, for 1 month only. Save big with Renewal by Anderson. Get $300 off every window and $825 off all patio doors. Plus, call now and ask about our brand new Ensemble entry door system. But hurry, this limited time offer won't last. Visit bestwindowsflorida.com today to schedule your free design consultation. That's bestwindowsflorida.com. Renewal by Anderson, your trusted window and door experts. Superior products, exceptional service. License number CGC 1527613.
This is the Mangler. Years of playing football coupled with lifestyle left my feet mangled with neuropathy. I was experiencing burning, tingling, and numbness. I spoke with 2 foot specialists and they told me there was no cure. They were wrong. I found Dr. Nate Riddle in Ponte Vedra. After utilizing his neuropathy treatment for only 2 weeks, I noticed a difference in my feet. I was regaining my feeling and balance. If you want relief from nerve pain, call Dr. Nate for a free consultation at Riddle Wellness, 904-395-5598.
So, you finally have some time to yourself. Even if it is just the car ride home, it's you time. And look at you. Do not disturb set before you even got in the car? Impressive. You've earned this moment to just chill and drive. This break is brought to you by Target Zero and the Florida Department of Transportation.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the trumpet call heard round the world. Experience the thrill of the Kentucky Derby at Best Bet. Saturday, May 3rd, witness the most exciting 2 minutes in sports and dive into the action with live wagering. This could be your lucky day. Mark your calendars and join us at Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, or St. Augustine on May 3rd for the Kentucky Derby. Visit bestbetjacks.com for more details. That's bestbetjacks.com.
A judge swings the gavel and I pound the hammer. I'm not judging, just hammering. Hammer Time with Hayes Carlyon, weekdays on The Frangie Show.
Hammer Time with Hayes, driven by Southside Kia on 1010XL.
Since 1901, generations of skilled union workers have built the backbone of our community. Hospitals, schools, the buildings where you work. Every year, a new apprentice class of Local 234, plumbers, pipe fitters, and HVAC technicians is stepping up, trained, driven, and ready to do great things. They're not just building our city, they're building their future. Local 234, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Visit UA234.com to become a member or contractor today.
Tailgaters parking season passes are on sale now. Secure your Jaguar season parking today. Enjoy indoor restrooms, a full-service bar and grill, access 4 hours before kickoff. Visit tailgatorsparking.com and book your space today.
Hey Jacksonville, Lauren Brooks here for Big Chief Tire. If you need new tires, Big Chief has affordable options to fit every budget and every vehicle. Their team of experts will help you find the right tires and make sure they're installed quickly so you can get back on the road. Don't wait. Visit WeKeepJacksRollin.com or call 904-932-0950 to schedule your appointment and explore their great tire deals. Big Chief Tire keeps Jacks rolling.
Hey, Hicken here. I want to tell you guys about Lift Power. Lift Power, a Jacksonville-based business, been around for more than 50 years, family-owned and operated, and always on the lookout for good folks, experienced lift truck and knock-and-door technicians. The benefits out of this world: 401k, company vehicle, paid training, sign-on bonus. Offers so great. Come see why Lift Power has been voted one of the best places to work for the past several years as well. We want you to be a part of the family. Don't let this opportunity slip by. To learn more, all you got to do is go to liftpower.com. Check them out at liftpower.com.
Are your monthly bills keeping you up at night, wondering how you got so behind? Hey, I'm Roger Moore, CEO of Loan Pronto. I get it. Life is expensive now. Insurance, groceries, cars. And then there's the credit card debt with those obscene interest rates. It's time to regain your financial freedom. And that's what we offer at Loan Pronto, using the power of the equity in your home. We have multiple ways to get you the cash you need, and most clients close in 2 weeks or less, and many don't even require an appraisal. And listen, rates have been plummeting recently. We just locked a homeowner in with an APR in the low fives, saving her over $1,000 per month, and put $10,000 in her pocket. Life-changing money. Whether you're drowning in debt, have a nosebleed rate you got last year, need home improvements, or simply need cash in your pocket, we can help you accomplish this goal in record time. Call us today and get started with no hard credit pull, just a conversation. LoanPronto.com, 904-999-1508. LoanPronto.com. That's LoanPronto.com.
Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Need a fast casual option that's healthy, fresh, and delicious? Choose the Great Greek Mediterranean Grill. Gyros, salads, hummus, and more made completely fresh right as you order. Off 210 and St. John's Parkway. The Great Greek Mediterranean Grill.
1010XL is presented by Farrah & Farrah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, the cool down from the cool guys at Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing. Fast, reliable, and honest service since '87.
It's called the cool down, but we're sort of kind of heating up because we have a little bit of breaking news here in the city of Jacksonville. After 3 years with the Jacksonville Jaguars, Neil Stratton at Inside the League on X, who of course follows all of the coaching staff, hirings, parting of ways, firings, reports that Ethan Waugh will not return as the assistant general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Quote, as new GM James Gladstone begins to reshape the front office. Waugh, of course, previously spent almost 2 decades with the 49ers, and Stratton says that he should see multiple NFL front office opportunities soon.
Another bit of breaking news and similar, Matt Zenitz, who covers all of the guys that go into the transfer portal. I don't know how he does it, but he just let everyone know that ex-Florida State wide receiver Hakeem Williams has announced he is transferring to Colorado, former 5-star recruit. Yeah, one of the few guys that was a 5-star for Mike Norvell. But obviously that whole Colorado conversation, you're getting drafted number 2 overall as a wide receiver / corner, of course, if you're Travis Hunter. But Hakeem Williams sees that path and says, I certainly want to play for a guy that is able to coach and
Or
develop.
you're sliding to the 5th round. There's
But
one or the
that's
other.
quarterback, not wide receiver. But yeah, the transfer portal, like I said, I don't know how Matt keeps up with it.
Oh, me either.
Like,
I don't know
every
how.
5 seconds, I feel like he's got some sort of post about people and, or the movement in college football, and it's constant.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're almost through that.
I know.
part
I
of it.
asked last week, what is the close?
Yeah, it was.
It did close. Well,
yeah, it closed.
It closed for basketball
Okay.
last week. I believe it closed for football as well. But if you're already in the portal, you
gotcha.
can still make your decision.
Right. Which, speaking of basketball, Todd Golden said that Thomas Houck will start at the 3 next year, assuming that Alex Condon comes back. But good news that certainly Houck did not declare for the NBA draft. It's good news as far as Gator fans are concerned. And that team is going to be interesting if Ruben Chinyelu comes back, and certainly Condon comes back. You've already got Micah Hanlogton. And then there's the 7'9" Olivier Rioux. and I have no idea if he's going to play next year or not. Golden originally said he wanted him to sit another year, but if he gets on the court, my goodness.
Well, we're breaking ground with Travis Hunter and with one Olivier Roux. What was the? I'm trying to pull it up right now. It was with Will. It was like there was a recruiting visit going on. And it wasn't Walter Clayton who was there, but it was I didn't see what the prospect. It was some European kid. Did you see this floating around the internet yesterday? I'm going to pull it up for us.
With the Olivier Roux, he just doesn't think he's ready? Is that he wants one more year?
To just develop into his body and also learn the skill set part
a lot
of
of body
too.
to try.
As I always remind people when it came to cutting down the nets, which I love to just mention that, yes, Florida did win the men's basketball national championship, but that he didn't need a ladder.
Yeah.
He just stood
really
up there
insane.
and reached his hands.
So it's Ben Henshaw.
Yeah.
Is the name of the recruit. And apparently on Instagram 3 days ago, he was spotted out for Korean barbecue with Alex Condon and Will Richard.
I love Korean barbecue.
So do I. So great choice by them if they're trying to court his services down in G Vegas. I appreciate them going the Korean barbecue route.
For sure. Mia, who is the Indiana men's basketball coach that all of Duval needs to be mad at?
Darian DeVries, baby. Formerly longtime lieutenant to Doug McDermott out in Creighton, then was the head coach at Drake for 5-6 years. You may be familiar with the last name because his brother played in the National Football League for decades with the Detroit Lions. And yes, now the new head coach at Indiana after a 1-year stop at West Virginia this past season. We know that his son, who took a medical red shirt this past season, Tucker, who was expected to be a potential Big 12 All-American even selection before an unfortunate injury and ultimately having season-ending surgery in December. We knew Tucker would be following him to Indiana. But aside from that, Indiana's so fascinating because it's obviously a blue blood in the sport of college basketball. They spent top 10 money last year in the portal in terms of NIL investments. They have that money. That's part of why Darian DeVries made the point to accept the Indiana job, even if he was the 5th or 6th option, because he recognized how much the resources that he'd have. And it's interesting that now 2 of his newest recruits come from the University of North Florida, with Josh Harris joining Josiah Miles, headed up to Indiana and Hoosier Country. And you top that on top of the grad transfer in Liam Murphy, Columbia transfer initially to UNF this past season, was the A-Suns leader in three-point shooting percentage. He's headed to Purdue. And so, yes, it's unfortunate for Matthew Driscoll to find himself in this UNF program in the situation it is, but it's also a marketing tool, quite frankly, that you have 3 guys headed to the Big Ten after Chaz Lanier was a All-American at Tennessee. It's a very hard... It's a sweet bitter, in the words of Les Snead. It's a sweet bitter situation, but...
He's on with McAfee right now.
I mean, because you're losing these players, but it's also showing you can evaluate really good talent.
Oh, yeah, and I think we've known that with certainly Coach Driscoll. And look, Coach Mincy, too. When you lose a player to Florida State in Robert McRae, that means that you...
are doing a good job.
Yeah, you brought him... I would love for college athletics to get back to a point where a place like UNF or a place like JU is not a stepping stone in the world of this sport. I would prefer people to be committed to that one of those schools and stay there 3 to 4 years.
Driscoll did get a commit in
or
the
6 or 7.
He did get a commit in the transfer portal from across town. Kent Jackson is going to go to the other side of the rivalry. The Episcopal product is now going from JU to UNF. So there's somebody on the roster.
Not a far move for him.
Yeah.
Speaking of all the
commute
portal
from
stuff.
Merrill Road. He can still live in the same apartment. It's fine.
As we're on some of the portal chatter too, I saw this and it stood out to me. So Nick Saban said on ABC that Alabama tried to get Wyatt Milam every year in the portal, was his quote. Wyatt Milam was never in the portal.
Yes.
Illegal tampering.
Nick
we know
Saban
it to be true.
And Shane Gillis said on College Game Day that he was a cheater, and he was cheating.
Right. I mean, and that's...
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Beyond the fact that it was Wyatt Milam, the fact that Nick Saban is on this national broadcast and is like, oh, yeah, we tried to get him to come into the portal, like, all the time. And
and good for Wyatt for staying at West Virginia.
Yes.
All right, let's check in with Mike Silver on the other side and get more into that piece that he released from The Athletic and all the different scenarios that were going on in that Jaguars war room. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
It's hard to explain, but play-by-play just sounds better on the radio.
What a turn of events!
1010XL, Jacksonville's home for play-by-play.
If you've played sports or still lead an active life, chances are joint pain is nothing new. This is Dr. George Barry of Barry Orthopedics, and we like to be your option when it comes to taking care of your body and getting back in the game. From shoulders to elbows to hip and knee pain, Barry Orthopedics can diagnose and treat a variety of injuries that are causing you pain. We are Barry Orthopedics and online at barryorthopedics.com. With more than 30 years of experience, our team is here to care for your entire family.
Find out more at barryorthopedics.com. That's BAHRI orthopedics.com.
Lauren Brooks here. It's the Cruise in the Summer event at Hodges Mazda at the Avenues. For a limited time, get up to $5,000 off a new 2024 Mazda CX-50 Preferred and receive a free 5-day cruise for 2 with your purchase. With off-road capability and this special offer, your summer adventure starts now. Hurry, 2024 Mazda CX-50 Preferred models are in limited supply at Hodges Mazda. Offer valid on new 2024 Mazda CX-50 Preferred only. MSRP $32,564. Must trade in a vehicle and finance through dealer to qualify for discount. Cruise and vehicle availability limited. Travel taxes and fees additional. See dealer for details.
Denny Thompson here. You got to check out Tyson's Showroom Home Theater with surround sound and comfy theater chairs. You can transform your living room into a cinematic experience. I can stay there to watch all my games. It's that comfortable. Call Tyson today and bring the theater experience home. Tyson Sound and Security, your security, home theater, and home automation experts. New showroom at 3555 U.S. Highway 17 in Fleming, Iowa.
Hey there, Jacksonville. With scorching temperatures just around the corner, it's crucial to ensure your AC is blowing nice and cool. Duck Duck Air Conditioning is here to keep you comfortable all summer long. But don't wait until the heat gets here. Our service techs are ready right now to handle any cooling issues you may have at your home or business. Call Duck Duck AC today at 904-862-6769 to schedule. That's 904-862-6769. Duck Duck Air Conditioning. Online at duckduckac.com.
This is Greg McGarity, President and CEO of the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl. I'm here to share that the Gator Bowl is actually a year-round organization. We're known for the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl football game, which has been a Jacksonville staple for more than 80 years. Off the football field, the Gator Bowl is also host to the annual Florida State baseball game, a champion of local youth through Gator Bowl charities, and a strong networking organization of local individuals and companies through our membership. We're actually looking to grow membership, which is an affordable, fun way for you to get involved and give back to our community. To learn more, visit gatorbowl.com for more information.
Guys, want a golf course fairway quality lawn? TopDressing.com just landed in Jacksonville with the golf course secret for St. Augustine grass homeowners. A patented process that aerates and turns your turf into a fairway stunner. Serious golf course technology, but in your yard. Less water, tighter cuts, total neighborhood domination. No one else scores a perfect 10 lawn. Hit TopDressing.com now. You will own the block. Top dress your yard like the pros with TopDressing.com.
Fish know where to hide. Captain Kevin knows how to find them.
That's a big one.
Listen for the Wing Power Fishing Forecast Show, brought to you by Awaken 180 Weight Loss and Royal Pest Services.
Thursday nights at 6
on 1010XL AM.
Is your office productivity running at full speed? Advanced Business Solutions has the solution with Xerox copiers. Whether you need high volume printing, scanning, or secure document management, Xerox copiers deliver efficiency, quality, and innovation. With features like cloud integration and mobile printing, Xerox is perfect for any modern office. Let ABS help you streamline your workflow. Better known, Advanced Business Solutions.
Advanced Business Solutions.
Hacker here, taking you back exactly 1 year this week. I was only 9 weeks into Awaken 180, and it already dropped 54 pounds. Seriously, that's like shedding a first grader in just over 2 months. That's wild, right? Fast forward to today, 2 months into my maintenance, and I'm still down over 115 pounds. Not a pound put back on. It's like Awaken 180 gave my weight a permanent eviction notice. Now listen up. We all want to have goals, but sometimes they seem to be far-fetched. This one won't be. Dropping 40 pounds by the 4th with Awaken 180. It's doable when you have a proven program with an excellent coach by your side. Weekly weight loss, enjoying the ride, and reaching your goal. We all did it. No reason you can't. Set your goal, make the call, and reach 40 by the 4th with the solution for weight loss. Online at awaken180weightloss.com or call 844-346-1800.
Beat the spring cleaning rush with big savings and priority booking by calling our heroes at Zero Res. This month, get Zero Resified from Jacksonville's #1 carpet cleaner. You'll get 25% off all cleaning services. That's right, 25% off. Check out 8,000 raving customer reviews if you don't believe me online. Call them, 904-287-5727, or visit their website, ZeroResJacksonville.com. Zero Res, spell it forwards or backwards. It's the right way to clean.
Zero Res.
North Florida is growing with lots of new families joining our community. If you're one of them making the move here, your next move should be a call to American Electrical to create the best home automation system, enhancing your living experience. There are many ways your life can be made easier through smart home technology, voice-activated systems, automated lighting, total house temperature control. With American Electrical, they've got everything you need to automate your home and make it your true oasis. Check out American-Electrical.com. Powered by professionalism and raising the excellence bar.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, another great guest on the Checkmate Coatings phone line. Hello. Your floor's missing piece.
We've been telling you all day, 1:30 was the time you had to set your alarm, set your clock for. Mike Silver of The Athletic joins us to break down the tremendous, cinema-inducing profile from inside the war room of your Jacksonville Jaguars. Hi, friend. It's almost like I just saw you a couple of days ago.
I know. I made it back to the other side of the country, and then I basically went into a cave and continued to type until eventually we had a product.
Well, you did tell me that when you wrote the initial profile Thursday night after the Jaguars' dramatic trade up the draft board for Travis Hunter, that one, it came easily. It was an easy write. I think that, certainly the Jaguars.
I didn't
you
say,
told me
I
that.
Didn't say that. It's never easy.
Yes, you said it came easy. I
said I wrote it way too fast.
Oh.
But if I said that, then maybe it's because I had a tiny, tiny, tiny beer buzz, but
and maybe a little lack of sleep.
Perhaps.
I don't think easy is how I would at least describe it. Now, I would say that the Jags made it easy with great access, but that helped. But no, I definitely wrote very quickly Thursday night. My intent was to write something off the first night and get it up on the site. But, had they stayed at 5 and say taken Ashton Jonte, then, that's a cool story. I would have written it at the end of the night. It would have got up, and I think it would have been, a nice thing to have. But because they were the story of the first night of the draft, and I knew, how seismic it was once the move was finally announced, that my instinct was do this quickly. Now, to try to do it quickly at a high level, I'm not the young man I once was, but caffeine and adrenaline and hopefully, a little bit of finesse got it done.
Lauren noted to us, Mike, that we dropped the ball before you came on. Already, we dropped the ball because what we should have led this interview, this conversation with, was clipping the last time you joined us. That was prior to Trent Baalke being dismissed as general manager. Parting of ways. But Doug Peterson had already been fired, and we needed to clip, what was the line, Lauren?
I don't know how Trent Baalke still has a job.
Yeah, so there's your drop. Here we are, 5 months removed, 4.5, I suppose, from Trent Baalke being dismissed here in Jacksonville. Doug Peterson also out the door. Liam Cohen, James Gladstone, Tony Baselli, the new triumvirate leading the charge here in Duval County. What do you make of this new group now that you've seen it up close and personal?
Well, first of all, it was really cool to watch them work. As James Gladstone says in my story, I've done a lot of talking. It was cool to finally get some action. And, look, you don't go into every draft thinking you're going to get everything you want. It's a fluid situation. But, given, I think people will like this roller coaster ride of this story, given what they were working with. Obviously the trade up was a massive move. They had the 2 threes. They saw a player and then another player they really wanted at 70 come off the board. They pivoted in real time and traded down and then traded back up and got 2 guys at 88 and 89 that if push came to shove, they would have been happy with either at 70. So, that was really cool. If you make it to the end of this very long story, you'll find out that, James Gladstone had a little cheat sheet laminated card of 31 guys that were kind of his favored guys. And 8 of the 9 people he ended up taking were on that list. And then they have this whole Jaguars DNA metric, and they scored by their measurement at the top of the league, as, theoretically they should. It's their measurement. But the guys they got were the guys they wanted with Jaguars DNA. So, I thought the process was really good. We won't know if the players are good, as usual, right away. I think it's probably a pretty good bet that Travis Hunter will be. But, I thought the process was really good, and by their standard, it went really well. As to the larger question, the one thing that kind of got cut out of this story from its original form, because it was even longer, which anyone who's read it's going to be like, dude. But it was even longer because I really was trying to tell the story of the reboot, and I did talk about, Liam Cohen dropping out of the search, Shad Khan deciding, hey, I'm going to do a complete reset, and then parting with Trent Baalke, and then, taking you through that. So we lost some of that, but you guys know the story. I guess I would just describe it this way, having talked to a lot of people. Shad Khan wasn't sitting there going, man, Trent Baalke sucks, I got to get rid of him. I think he just understood at some point, like, hey, there's a stigma out there in NFL circles that he's, doesn't always play nicely with others. That stigma is amplified by idiots in the media like Mike Silver. And also, in the building, there are a lot of rumblings that he's not super popular. And Liam Cohen never said to Shad Khan, I don't want to work with Trent Baalke. That's a non-starter. I think his instinct at that point was just, look, I want to make a run at Liam Cohen. And when I do it, I think a full reset is the way to go. He and Tony Baselli had talked many times leading up to this and the years leading up to it about him coming aboard. So it all kind of just aligned. I'm going to go after Liam Cohen. I'm going to get Tony Baselli in this capacity, and then we're going to run a GM search and try to get our guy.
Yeah, I don't know if Liam Cohen had to. Maybe flying back and saying you're going to take an offensive coordinator job over a head coaching job was enough silent words for the organization and Shad Khan. But, Mike, we were just talking earlier in the show about kind of the way that this whole draft went down. And so share a little bit of what was happening on that. You pick at number 2 and you're not picking again until 88. That's a lot of time. For us, Friday felt like a million years waiting for that next pick. But share a little bit of inside the room on that Friday, what exactly the conversations were like.
It was cool because they were in there early, but they knew they were not on the clock for a very long time. They had 2 guys they thought, based on where they thought people would go, that were likely targets at 70. R.J. Harvey, Central Florida running back, and Ashton Gelati, who's a Louisville pass rusher. One big thing in Gelati's favor was that the next guy on their board, the way they stacked it at that position, was way, way, way lower. So it was kind of like, if we don't get Gelati here, we're probably not dealing with that position for a while. Whereas they did really like Tootin and some other running backs. They like the Texas Tech guy, Taj, spaced on his last name right now. But, he was another guy they really liked, and they obviously liked Tootin a ton. And so, it was cool because I saw James Gladstone kind of, listen to Liam Cohen, his coach, and listen to the enthusiasm in his voice about Harvey. And they actually put his combine photo up on one of the screens. So shirtless R.J. Harvey was up there for like 45 minutes. It was weird because I literally said out loud, because I tried to be like a very quiet version of me as given that access, but by then I was talking, and I think when they put it up, I go, man, that looks just like me, and got a couple laughs. But yeah, so we had like shirtless R.J. Harvey up on the board. We had, this whole Gelati thing, and then you had a couple of trade down scenarios that were presenting themselves, and kind of like Lions felt kind of on again, off again, on again. Rams were on and then off. They suspected that Gelati was the target of both teams. I think they confirmed that it was for the Rams, so that when he got picked at 66 and Harvey had just gone at 60, the Rams trade disappeared. But then the Lions reappeared. And so, they were obviously targeting, I think his name is Tesla, this receiver, which, I mean, tell me that guy couldn't have gotten an NIL deal. Probably wouldn't want it now, at least in my neighborhood. But, and now he works for the Fords, so that's not going to happen. But, Tesla was not a guy that the Jags had targeted. They were now talking about, what to do at 70, and it got kind of dicey, partly because when communicating the trade with the league while on the clock, the league kind of had a little communications issue on their end, and it floated down to the point where Brad Holmes, the Giants GM, calls James Gladstone with a minute and a half on the clock, and he's like, "Hey, are we doing this?" And it was neither team's fault, but I don't know if people understand. A minute and a half seems like a decent amount of time to get a pick in, but before you make the pick, whichever GM is going to make it, Gladstone or Holmes, you got to call the guy, and usually, the cliche is, quote, to make sure he's not dead. Now, that's a little dark, but basically, NFL teams, those phone calls aren't just for show and in-house video. Those phone calls continue all the way through, and it's basically like, hey, we've invested months and months in this process, and now we're going to make the pick. Let's make a call and hear his voice and make sure he didn't, go on a bender last night and now he's in the hospital, whatever it is, just like proof of life. So if you are sitting there at a minute and a half and you're Brad Holmes, you're like, I got to get this trade in and then call Tesla, hear him, and then get the pick in. Conversely, if the trade's not going to go through and you're Gladstone, you got to call. Probably would have been, I believe it probably would have been Ransaw, the safety they took at 88, as opposed to Milam, the offensive lineman they took at 89. But clearly one of those two guys, based on what I saw on that board, you got to call one of them really quick. The other thing I'd say is that from the Jaguars' perspective, because then they had to turn around when they did pick at 88, they traded back up at 89 while on the clock at 87. So that happened really fast. And the first time Gladstone called Wyatt Milam, he called a different number, maybe his agent, and had to redial. But James Gladstone was putting a landline on speakerphone and painstakingly dialing each number as the clock was ticking. And one of the things I said to James on Sunday is, maybe you need to get a designated dialer, dude. Like, it felt like a lot. Because I think they got the pick in with 20-something seconds to go, and he just laughed. He said, no, I like dialing. So he can do it all at 34. But if anyone wants to apply for that job, by the way, designated dialer, Jaguars War Room, I feel like that's, a good part-time job.
Yeah, you better have a slow heartbeat, though, like James does. Taj Brooks is the running back, by the way.
Taj Brooks.
Yep, out of Texas Tech.
CAHJ, backwards Taj.
Yep, and he was drafted by the Bengals in the 6th round. Mike Silver of The Athletic with us. Mike, at what point did you know the Jaguars were trading up to get Travis Hunter? Because now we've learned that had taken place way back on April 7th.
I learned early Thursday, and people ask me, because I do have this funny reputation, especially among family and friends, but former colleagues, for having news break out in front of me or being in the opportune place at the opportune time. So a lot of people were rolling their eyes, but people did ask me, dude, did you know they were doing it? And no, leading in, I did not know, because I did not know till Thursday morning, but I did have I love the story. I love the whole Jags reboot story. So I wanted to be part of that or capture that in some way. And then secondly, I did have some instincts that they were doing something. They made some comments like, hey, we want to be bold. And there were kind of some knowing smiles. So I don't know if they knew it was Hunter, but I knew that, they were going hunting in their minds, and they weren't going to just be boring. But I would have loved the story and the access had they not done that. But yeah, I didn't mind. That was pretty cool. I was really excited Thursday, and we did start to get some rumblings. I know you, Mia, had heard some things, and then finally it kind of became national. But it was still pretty late, like 3 p.m. I started seeing Ian Rappaport and some people kind of talking about it. So you got to give James and Andrew Berry and both organizations, some credit for keeping it secret that long.
Yeah, and ultimately, as we've discussed, Mike, you and I, there still was always this chance of the Browns getting cold feet and leaving the Jaguars at the altar. And I know that's ultimately where I would say.
And to be clear, they could not actually make this trade because what the Browns said was, we're not doing it till we're on the clock, because if somehow Cam Ward does not go 1, we're taking Cam Ward at 2. The trade's off. So it was an agreement, and they checked in, I think, the night before or the morning of to make sure they were still cool. But it couldn't be a binding agreement until that happened. Now, I was trying, of course, to come up with scenarios like, wait, is there a scenario where neither Cam Ward nor Hunter goes 1? Where that would, because obviously if Hunter goes 1, the trade's off too. But like, would either the Titans or someone who traded for that pick end up somehow taking a different player? It seemed unlikely, but let's say somehow the Patriots freaked out and traded up and got Abdul Carter because they just really wanted an edge. Then the Browns would have been like, yeah, we're just taking Cam. So, yeah, it was, I thought it was very, very likely to happen, but of course you don't know for sure until they actually put in the card.
Off the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures from one of the Heeligans in Indiana, Mike. Mike Silver is our Trent Krim, former hater who likes and defends us to the death now.
No, that's not fair, because here's why. Because I caused some drama on social media, and I want you to go with me here. This is a good diversion. So, I watched Ted Lasso like everyone else, and Trent Krim was like this amusing character. And then Trent Krim did something that in our profession is so unthinkably horrible that I just had trouble watching the show. And that is, he burned a source. By the way, just on his own, wasn't even being interrogated. Snitches get stitches in our business, and they should. But Trent Krim decided he was going to tell Ted Lasso that his anonymous source on a big story that was negative about Ted Lasso was Nate, his former assistant. I said Trent Krim should be executed or something, like some hyperbole. And then people on social media freaked out, and somebody said, "You are exactly what's wrong with America." And I said, yes, calling for the execution of a fictional journalist on social media is exactly what's wrong with America. Now, to be clear, I would not literally want a journalist to be executed for that, excommunicated maybe, but not executed. But if Trent Krim had been executed on Ted Lasso, at least one viewer would have been applauding.
This is a great diversion, but since our time is short, I do want to get to another texter off the text line who actually has a pretty good question, Mike, that I'm curious if you're able to answer. And because we don't want you burning sources and the access that the Jaguars granted you in the war room last week, totally understand if you have to deflect on this one.
What would Trent do?
Well,
Krim.
Trent Krim. I thought you meant Trent Baalke. I already did a Trent Baalke impression on today's show, so we're here for that as well if you want to try that. No, this is from one of our favorite Heeligans, our friend DJ Dell. I wonder if the laminated card, the Jags version of the Make Him a Ram process that Les Snead and the Ram scouting staff with James Gladstone have had each and every year. For example, last year they did a survey and Jared Verse was deemed one of 3 players as a consensus Make Him a Ram selection. Did you see anything like that from the Jaguars?
Well, it stands to reason that there were similarities, right? That's James Gladstone's mentor. He comes from that place, and he hasn't brought a lot of his own guys in, too. So chances are, it might have been some version of that. I did not hear Make Him a Jag. I heard Jaguars DNA. But, every team kind of calls it differently and does it differently. I guess the important part of it to me is that, they've decided what they value, and I think that will evolve. But, James and Tony and Liam have kind of come up with this. These are the characteristics. This is what we're really looking for. Obviously, talent being part of that. But, they have a clarity in their mind about what they want, and they came away from this draft with those type of players in their mind. So I don't do instant draft analysis in terms of like he's a good player, but I do process, and by their standard, they nailed it. So yeah, I don't know. I would imagine there'll be a lot of things that come from the Rams, that James is bringing to them, and that's probably what they talked about in his interview too. So it's not, it's as advertised. But so far, so good from their perspective. They feel like they got, players that fit what they're looking for. And I think the other thing that was striking to me was just the alignment. Everybody talks about alignment and it's aspirational, and I know they haven't lost the game yet and, blah, blah, blah. But it was cool to see it. Like there really was a sense with Baselli and Liam and Gladstone that they are pulling together, that they care about one another's opinion, that you'll see in the story. Like Baselli kind of defers on an offensive line decision, which even Gladstone says, that's kind of crazy. That's a number 2 overall pick of the draft. A Hall of Fame left tackle is sitting there just, smiling as his viewpoint is challenged. But, that wasn't for show. Baselli was like, yeah, we went through our process. I love Milam. Our process says Milam. I just have this draft crush on, the LSU tackle, and we're going to lose him after we pick Milam. And, these draft crushes, they can be heartbreaking with your players.
It does seem like every time that Tony Baselli went to get a snack, one of his draft crushes.
Yeah, he was out of the room twice briefly for Harvey and Gelati being picked. Maybe it wasn't Gelati. I got to go back and look exactly when he was out. But yeah, he, it's. I don't want to make it seem like he was stressed eating. He might not even have been. I mean, I know I was like, dude, they had the teal and black M&Ms in a thing in that room, and I think I consumed about 7,000 of them unconsciously.
We had Sour Patch watermelon in the other room, and I echo that sentiment.
The draft is long.
Real quick, Mike, before Lauren and Taylor and I say goodbye and we pass it off to XL Primetime, which appreciate your time as always. Ethan Waugh, the report is out that he will part ways with the Jaguars as well as the assistant GM, will not return. I'm curious, any rumblings or intel or just thought process for you? Is this kind of standard quo, the idea of a new GM comes in, he brings his guys? Do you believe James Gladstone will pull solely from the Los Angeles Rams?
Oh, I don't know if he's going to pull from the Rams, but it is standard that, a new GM would make a bunch of changes, and James made very, very few as new hires go. So yes, after the draft, I would expect there to be more. It's also pretty normal that when someone is in an assistant type position, whether it's a coordinator or in this case assistant GM, interviews for the big job and then doesn't get it, that person is usually motivated to be like, okay, I'm going to go elsewhere because it's just never going to happen here. They had a shot at me and they didn't love it. Not every time, but that's kind of normal too. I had some good talks with Ethan. He's a really respected personnel guy. I think he probably has something lined up. If not, he'll be sought after. It was notable that he was not in the draft room. The draft room was pretty tight. There weren't that many people in it, usually about a dozen, but normally you'd expect the assistant GM to be one of those people. So the fact that he wasn't kind of, spoke volumes.
Well, Mike, I hope you're in the draft room next year because you did a fabulous job from the War Room, and we really appreciate your extended time with us today.
Well, that would be amazing. And I'll tell you one thing. If Trent Baalke ends up getting a GM job somewhere, I will probably not be in that draft room after Lauren's promo hits the airwaves, and it's going to kill me. But no, listen, I am a Northern Californian. I hate traveling to Jacksonville because it takes a really long time. But once I'm there, it is great to, be around what's going on over at Miller Electric Center and the stadium. So I have a feeling I'll be back soon.
Well, we appreciate your time, and we appreciate you. Always a friend of Helmets and Heels, the one and only Mike Silver of The Athletic. Go sleep. You need to sleep after last week.
Yeah, I'll do it later.
Hey, there you go. There he goes. Mike Silver, of course, a guest on the Checkmate Coatings hotline. Let's say hello to XL Primetime.
Now, the 2-minute drill. Serviced by Cool Cats Heating and Cooling. Locally owned and operated. We're your neighbors. CoolCatsJacks.com.
The coolest cats in town.
Matt, we were just chatting with Mike Silver for quite some time, and he had a lot of insight, obviously, into what happened in the Jaguars war room. As you read through his story in The Athletic, what stood out to you?
Just the cohesion among everybody, which is a very good sign, actually. I think that's as much as anything. I mean, I think they're all on the same page, which is huge, because as we know, the last couple of years, I'm not sure they were all on the same page. But we will talk about that and more. NFL, college football. We got Leon Sweet 16 coming up.
Where are we at in the Sweet 16?
Semifinals today, begin today.
Oh, so there's only 3 more games left.
3 more games.
Wow, we've made it so far.
Mm-hmm.
And Coach Campo here as well?
Yep.
We got to say Coach Campo over the weekend. It was lovely.
He's a good man.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, ladies.
We'll be listening. All right. That'll do it for us today. For Mia O'Brien, for Taylor Dahl, for RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks. Thanks again to Mike Silver for joining us and going through all that happened in the Jags war room this past weekend. These heels are made for talking. We will talk to you tomorrow, but don't go anywhere. XL Primetime is next.